Pretty amazing, huh? It's hard to follow that. Thank you, Sarah, and Heather, Chip, Avery, and Sharita for sharing your amazing, very inspiring stories, and again, for just being such amazing leaders and champions in your communities. Everyone in this room has an interesting story to tell and why you were motivated to get involved with Nothing But Nets in the first place. One of the skills of effective leadership, especially in today's digital information age, is being able to communicate your story effectively, ensuring your message breaks through the clutter and reaches the people who need to hear it. We couldn't ask for a better spokesperson and speaker for this next session on how to become an effective spokesperson. Whether you're talking about malaria, the Sustainable Development Goals, or any other number of issues that you are passionate about and how they impact the world. So I'd like to introduce Aaron Sherinian, who's the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for the United Nations Foundation. Aaron has led the Foundation's public relations efforts, media relationships, strategic outreach, and online presence since 2009. He has helped build some of the most talked about milestones in digital global engagement around causes and the UN issues over the last few years, including the Social Good Summit, Giving Tuesday, and International Day of Happiness. Look how happy he is. Before joining the UN Foundation, Aaron served as Managing Director of Public Affairs for the Millennium Challenge Corporation, in addition to a decade of service as a Foreign Service Officer for the United States Department of State. Please welcome the one and only Aaron Sherinian.
That was so nice. Thank you. It's good to be with friends. This is a friend, right? All right, it's Sunday morning. That was so inspiring. I'm not at church. Don't out me. I'm supposed to be at church today. But wow, did I ever get religion this morning hearing those stories. It was important to be here. It was great to be here. Let's do something. It's Sunday morning. If you're under the age of 21, stand up. Is this going to work if I use this? Okay, the under, is this working? Are we doing this, folks? If the 21 thing is happening in your life and you are here, you are the super cool ones. Can we give these guys some love? They are these super, I know you're gonna get recognized all over the place, but let me tell you what I was doing when I was your age on a Sunday morning, and it was not defeating malaria. I wish I'd gotten that. Now stay standing, stay standing. If you, when you are feeling really great and you know it's going to be a great day, and before you look in that mirror, if you feel like you're the age of under 21, and if you can, stand up. That's the rest of you. Everyone stand up. I'm trying to get you up for a minute and get some blood going. Stand up for a second. All right. Now all of you, give yourselves a hand for being here Sunday morning. Okay, we got you up. We're moving. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sit down. What are you doing standing up? We only have a couple of minutes. Let's get going. All right. So, Margaret, you're just going to kick when we're ready to go, right? I'm getting kicked. Thank you. Okay, I need to know who's kicking me. What a great opportunity to be here. I love this community. I love everything about it. I love hearing the stories that we just heard. Thank you. I'm gonna pull out a couple of the stories that we just heard. But thank you for being one of the things that we most love to talk about. Nothing But Nets is proof that something is working, something great is working. And Nothing But Nets is a chance for us to talk about you, and that's what I'd like to talk about today. All right, now I don't know where each of you is from. I know a lot about your profiles. I've heard about a lot of you. I'll get to hear about more of you. But this is dominating the headlines right now, right? Everybody's talking about the mess that this is. News, 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 news. News about what? It's so hard to break through. No one knows anymore. There's that whole fake news thing happening. We're going to talk about it because I know you thought about it when I put up newspapers. But when it comes down to it, the Nothing But Nets community knows what it means to be a great spokesperson, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about, I'm pointing where? I'm pointing up there. What we're talking about at the end of the day is we're going to start with some good manners. And we're going to start with, I think, the things that we heard this morning, because people were thanking you for listening, and they were modeling what makes for great spokesperson work in the first instance. And the Nothing But Nets community has always said, thank you for taking the time to hear about malaria. Thank you for taking the time to care about something that might not seem obvious to you right now. Thank you for taking the time, Madam Congresswoman, for putting on this VR headset and experiencing what you experience. Thank you. So we want to thank you because that's important in being a spokesperson. It's thanking the other person for taking the time in this crazy news environment where no one has time for anything else. Just let's remember to be good spokespeople by thanking others for taking the time to listen, because your message is something so important, because you are the champion today of something truly amazing. And it takes us as the campaign organizers, the Nothing But Nets team, those amazing Nothing But Nets team family members that are here, it takes a couple of seconds every now and then for us to stop you and say, look at what you're doing. You're the champion of something amazing. Because there's a lot of things to do Saturday morning. A lot of people are out there doing a lot of stuff. Some of it's pretty crazy. Some of it's not as substantive as this, but you're the champion of something truly amazing right now. So what we'd like to do is recognize that in this news environment where things are going on right now and people are talking about what is news, what is good news, what is true, what is not, what's data that I can listen to, what can I not, it's a good time to do something kind of crazy right now. It is a good time to actually trade phones. Whom have I never met in this room ever, ever, ever? Who is it? Who's feeling gutsy? You're feeling gutsy? Come on up here. Let's go. All right, let's give some love. Come on, we need some love in this room. Because I didn't even have to volunteer. But you know what we're going to do? Bring it. Okay, because if you remember that under 21 group that was in here? A majority of the people who are under 21, and this is not a judgment on that, you're going to be next to this thing probably 70% of your time right now. It's just a fact of matter. People say, no, that's not true. But how many of you, when you rolled out of bed this week, before you touched anything else, that's a weird statement, anyone or anything else, how many of you touched this first? If you feel like admitting it, raise your hand. If you've got some courage in your life, the rest of you are liars. Okay, that's okay. I hope you don't. I hope you hugged your pillow. I hope you hugged your pillow pet. I hope you hugged the person that may have been in your bed if that's appropriate. I hope that you did anything else, but that's not what we do. The first thing we do, because usually it's our alarm clock right now, right? So most people are saying, shh, be quiet, shut up. Most of us are actually touching this first, and you know what you're doing, because I do it too. I think that I'm immediately going to turn off my alarm clock and immediately say my prayers and immediately brush my teeth and go run a half marathon. What? But what I do instead is I turn off my alarm clock, and what is the first thing you do? What? What did you do? You do Facebook, and you said, she was wearing what last night? Or you were saying, he's joined that political party, he's off his rocker. You know that's what you're doing, okay? So for a minute, what's your name?
My name is Nashwan.
Nashwan, and you are from?
From GCI.
But from, where's your home?
Originally from Syria.
Okay, great. And your home today is?
Chicago, Illinois.
Great, okay. Syria, Chicago, citizen of the earth, that's like me. We're gonna do something really crazy right now. We're just gonna, do you feel ready to do this? Okay, unlock it. Unlock, Nashwan, get up here. Why are you, there's distance between us, that's not good, okay. Sharp dresser. And I like being up here with a man of my stature, okay, right? Men of substance, more to love, as my father always says. What we're gonna do right now, Nashwan, is we're gonna trade phones. Are you ready to do it? Don't put my profile on there. I want your feed. I want your Facebook feed.
Facebook feed.
Oh, this is so weird. How is it that this is so weird? Who did the, oh? Who did, we're about to do something super intimate in front of dozens of people. Are you ready for this? Or Twitter, give me Facebook, give me Twitter, give me Snapchat, give me any of those. Okay, all right, here, you ready? Okay, here you go. Go crazy. Go crazy, brother, go. No, give it to me. Okay, so a lot of this is happening. A lot of this is happening in some languages that I don't know. I would like to. I'm seeing a couple of familiar things, but do you know what? In Nashwan,
There is a guy in boxer.
yeah, they really want to sell me those, right? For sure. I'm seeing what they want to sell you. So tell me, do you recognize anything in my feed?
You have too much interests.
Okay. Dude, is there anything in my phone that is like yours?
No, actually.
No, not actually. Do you know what?
My profile is so self-centered.
In Nashwan, and in Nashwan is pretty self-centered too. There's a lot of him. What is there a lot of in my phone?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
A lot. You had 30 seconds on my phone. What is the majority of things on my phone?
It's about social good.
Okay.
There is some initiative you are promoting.
Okay, I'm seeing in yours, it's a lot about people that have causes that you care about. You like a lot of your friends from a lot of the places. Your friends have opinions about Donald Trump. I'm noticing. Everyone does. Okay, good. Now, the reason that we did this for a couple minutes is how many of you have been party to people trading phones recently? Has that happened a lot in your life? No, it's so weird. We're so connected, and yet when I said I'm going to trade phones with a total stranger, there was more than one of you in the room that went, huh? As if we were going to do something that you would have called the cops on. But it's strange because media is so connected, And yet it's a really good time today to trade phones, because even though this man and I have a lot in common, and we do, we have a lot in common. We care about things. I know we have some similar worldviews, even though I don't know a lot about him, and yet the information we're getting is crazy different. And so we're going to trade back. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for doing that today. That was a great experiment. I love your spirit, and I love your ability to do that. But we need to recognize that right now is a really good time, even though we think we've got a lot demographically together with each other. We might read the same things. We might think we're getting the same information. The way that information happens right now means, that, as you said it, Nashwan, it's all about us. And that means in order to get a story like how to defeat malaria, like the Nothing But Nets campaign and the main messages out there, we have got to be proactive in telling the story. We have to be the ones to help break through those channels where we're just listening to a lot about us. 10 years ago, if I had been on a stage, I would not be giving a story about that algorithm. Everyone's using the algorithm thing as if it's all about what Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook own in data. No, it's about ways to communicate with each other. Algorithms happen at that table. Algorithms happen when you meet with your member of Congress in the next couple of days. Breaking through that cycle so that Nashwan, if he never met me, would know about what I care about, and if had I never met him, means you've got to be a good storyteller. So it's a good time right now to trade phones, and what that means is it's a good time to think about how other people are advocating for and getting information about what they care about. Where am I pointing, guys? Am I pointing to you? Where's the magic happening? Okay, there we go. So this place and your story that you're going to have right now is relevant to everybody, because everyone is getting information about this place. And you being here over the next few days makes you one of the most relevant people in anyone's life in your circle right now. Not all of them will agree with you. Not each of them will be excited about your presence here. You are super relevant. You already are in your community. The magic and the combination of you as a credible spokesperson in your community and being here in Washington, D.C. on a week when we're talking about Korea and a France election and what's going on with multiple things makes you an ultimate story for media locally. Someone in your local media will want to talk to you this week if you do it right, okay? It might not be immediate, you might not see it in print immediately, but someone's going to want to do it. So I want you to make sure that you're part of it. Should someone just advance for me if that's not working? Here we go. I'm going to tell you my story about what happened when I was working on that hill. I'm not going to tell you the member I was working for. I'm not going to go into any of that detail, all right? But I used to work for, as a pup, I worked for a very important member of Congress, and I learned an important lesson there. And I'm going to tell this story, and please treat it with respect if you can, but I want you to realize that even though things have changed with media, with Facebook, with Twitter, with the way that we snap versus the way that we read, some things haven't changed. I work for a very important senator. And in his life, I was able to watch it all day long. I was able to watch him. I wasn't paid. I was one of those interns that was just, you know, the bottom of the totem pole. And what he cared about the most was the legislation he was working on. He cared about how his wife was doing. Where was she today? What city was she in? Is she going to be in D.C.? Is she going to be in district? He was really focused on his family. Good reasons, right? And just the logistics of what it means to be a member of Congress today. It's logistically trying. So think of them what you will. We know that they have incredible influence and they have complicated lives. He always had a bowl of soup in the morning, like mid-morning through the morning. It was his regime. I don't know. It was his thing. Today it would be kale if he were still alive. He'd probably have a kale smoothie or something. It was trendy at that point. He had this soup that they had. This is in the 90s. And every day he did it, and every single day, regardless of what was happening with those three things, he was reading his local district's newspaper. So I don't know a lot about all of them. I know something about some of them. But I know that this algorithm is probably true, speaking of algorithms for all of them. Each one of them will read or be briefed on or get a briefing of their local yokel, as small as it is or as massive as the distribution, media. Which means you, as a person from Chicago who is here on Capitol Hill this week, means I know that you're going to make it into the eyes of the decision makers of this country. The eyes of the decision makers who can make billion-dollar decisions that can affect millions of lives. So I'm breaking it down for you because I think these are things that you as advocates know instinctively, but I want to remind you that nothing has changed. Some things have totally changed, But nothing has changed because every member of Congress, I promise you, within a 24-hour period before the sun goes down, want to know what was in the local paper. I came from a small town outside Los Angeles. So my paper was the Los Angeles Times and the South Pasadena Review. Oh, wait a minute. The South Pasadena High School newspaper got into the hands of my local senator. I know it, because if I called on him to do something, he heard about it and he got that briefing. And we know, and I want the Nothing But Nets team to verify for me, nothing has changed on the Hill. That's how they watch to see what matters to constituents. So this is to let you know what your importance is and how together we can talk about what makes that story great, so that it's going to break through the noise, so that people around you can join this great community, so that your members of Congress can know that it matters, and so that people around you can be part of this. And some of the things that make story great have not changed. In this conversation about fake news versus great news, there are a couple of things that people are coming back to right now. Can I share that magic sauce with you that we've broken down to see what actually makes it between fake news and great news? Great news will always trump fake news. It always will. I can get into Nashwan's feed if I've got a story that has a couple of things, regardless of how much fake news is going on somewhere else. So good media relations is always the start of it. So I want to start there as we talk about a spokesperson. Notice I haven't brought up any talking points yet. I haven't asked you to memorize anything yet. Everything thus far has been about being a great human being. How many of you have, and just think, I don't need your hands, how many of you know who the editor of your local paper is today? Oh, some of you gave me the hands. Good, you're feeling all gutsy. I love you. Thank you. Guess what? The combination of, my name is, who raised their hand? Who raised their hand? You raised your hand. What's your name? Trisha from? Illinois. Trisha from, keep going. Trisha from Illinois, where? Highland. Trisha from Highland, Illinois. Trisha knows who her editor is. Trisha can say to the editor of her local paper today, dear, what's the editor's name? Do you know, but do you remember? Bill. Dear Bill, I am in Washington, D.C. today, and I wanted to talk to you about something important. Did you hear that phrase? I'm in Washington, D.C. today, and I wanted to talk to you about something that's going on that's really important. Or I've got a story that people in Highland, Illinois are going to care about. We haven't talked about any of them Nothing But Nets messages. I've seen them in your packets. I know you've got them. You're going to talk to all of the people on the Hill, and you're going to learn things. But the phrase I just gave you is probably the most important part about media relations and getting your story placed today. It's about readers in Highland, Illinois, and the fact that Trisha is in Washington, D.C. Sure, I want, no, I want someone else to. Wouldn't that be more interesting? Let's see, let's check me. To see did anyone hear the phrase? This friend asked if we can repeat the phrase. What was the phrase? Stand up, please, super loud. What was the phrase?
I'm in Washington, D.C. today.
Okay.
Talk to you about something important that the readers of Highland, Illinois are going to care about.
Great, so different order, but was it good? It was so good. Love, 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 love. Remind me your name is? What's your name? I need to hear your name. What's your name? Rhonda, got it, totally right. That worked, right? That worked, I think it worked too. Okay, great. All right, so that media relations piece, that good human relations piece is part of it. Remember we told you about how complicated the lives are of our members of Congress? Journalists, and we love them, we need them. Journalists, and they're gonna have a relationship with you and your editors, they are always gonna think that they're the busiest people in the world. And they are busy. They have deadlines, a lot of pressure. So let's make that relationship easy for them by letting them know that you've got a great story. Because in media relations, the best part of a great story is still about the story. And the fact that you know something that will matter to people in Highland that no one else knows about is important. So a tactic that's going to be important for you is to say what Trisha or Rhonda or anyone else is going to tell you. Avery did it this morning. Where's Avery? I've lost her. Where'd she go? Avery, where are you? Raise your hand. Hey. Avery used the magic words. I don't know if we have her on tape, but she said to us, I want to tell you a story. She told us a story. So I don't know what the next thing is going to be. Snap face, face chat, whatever the next thing is going to be in 25 years. But I know that the story that will hit everyone's feed and that will get into the member of Congress's lap is something that says what Avery did this morning. Let me tell you a story. And you're going to be telling stories to members of Congress. Many of you have been through the amazing storytelling that is the virtual reality tool that we have right now at our fingertips, but all of you have been touched by the story about malaria and how we have the ability to defeat it. So let's be storytellers, not fact pushers. Facts are important. They matter right now. Because of influence, whoa, we went to some messages. Let's go, stay right here. Whoever's doing that, stay right here, good. Okay, because now I'm competing with somebody. Are you gonna drive? If you're gonna drive, that's okay, good, then I'm putting this down. So the three things that matter to a great story, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about that it's gotta be a great story, are these three things. Can I pull it down for you? Who can read them for me? Real quick, 3 important words from the back of the room. Who is at my table over there? One of my neighbors. What are the 3 things? Say it loud, proud, go. At the end of the day, Nothing But Nets is about evidence, solutions, and people. We live in a world today where people want to know that something is working. And the Nothing But Nets messages that we're going to see in a minute have these elements in them. Now, no coincidence that I gave you a good acronym. I gave you ESP. Some of you were rolling your eyes, but it worked. Evidence, solutions, and people are what make for a great story that penetrates right now, that gets through the news feeds, that gets through the editor's desks. Because we have evidence. Do we have evidence in the Nothing But Nets campaign that things are working? We have evidence? What, I'm gonna put our people to the test for a minute. Rachel, you're in the back of the room sitting there like you didn't think I was gonna call on you, but you knew I was. Rachel, is there evidence that it's working? Stand up and tell me something. By whom? Okay. That is evidence. That is evidence about something that's working. Is there a solution? Thank you. Is there a solution that's involved? What is the solution that's involved? Because there's a lot of problems out there, and everybody our eyes are glazing over when they talk about problems, right? Solutions are capturing attention right now. I want to know how someone who's in this room who's defeating cancer, I want to know how solutions are working for her. I want to know how Avery broke through the noise and what she did with Cotopaxi and why that mattered. I want to know about a solution that's small and a solution that's big. And when it comes to nets, there's a solution. What is one of the solutions? Who's going to tell me the story? What's the solution point? What's the solution? Stand up and tell me. What is it? Great. So nets save lives, and it's a solutions story. Solutions journalism right now, in fact, is something that's very fashionable. There are full programs at Harvard and Stanford and Yale and UCLA, and everyone's talking about solutions journalism. I like those people, so I'm not mocking them. I like the solutions journalism people, but you're sitting on something that's solutions journalism 101. It's a solution, and it's not super high tech. It's super important. There is tech involved. There's a tech angle to it. And there's super important things. In fact, tech is part of the storytelling you're going to be doing. But the solution is so real. So let's talk about some. Oh, by the way, what was the third thing on this list? What's the P in the ESP? People. Because at the end of the day, if a story just is about evidence and solutions and doesn't talk about a person, it just doesn't fly. That person can be in Highland, and that person could be in Africa. That person can be someone who is helping to develop nets in Asia. That person can be someone who's advocating for nets in Canada. That person can be a person in a ballroom in Washington, D.C. on a Sunday morning. Especially those people make for great stories because someone wants to know what you know that got you here. There's something about that currency, about people that really interests people. Why are you here? That people story is very important. Let's go to the main messages. Can we go to the next one? Okay. Have we gone over these? Has anyone heard these in alto voce today? They've already been here today? You've all heard them today? Read? Not read. I want to read through all of them in different voices. Who's going to be my first voice? This table, what? I haven't heard from you. Who's going to do it from this table? Go. Stand up. Actually, give her this mic, would you please? I'm going to disrupt. We've already traded phones. Things have already gotten weird on the stage. So I'm going to all right, read them.
Good.
Yeah, go.
Every 2 minutes, a child dies from malaria, a disease caused by a single mosquito bite.
Keep going.
Okay. Nothing But Nets is the world's largest grassroots campaign to fight malaria. We raise awareness, funds, and voices to send life-saving bed nets to protect vulnerable families from malaria. And anyone, from students to superstars to CEOs, can join the fight against malaria.
Who are you? What's
My
your name?
name's Haley.
Where are you from,
Michigan.
Haley? Michigan? Where in Michigan?
Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Haley did a great job. Keep the mic for a minute. Haley read us the stories. Haley, I'm going to keep you on the spot. Is there an E, an S, and a P in these messages? Pull it out for me. We're going to spend time on our messaging because you're the messengers, right? We got to spend time. Have any of you ever made handmade pasta? So much fun, right? If you've done it, okay, we're going to get messy for a minute. We're going to be covered in flour, and it's going to be gross, but we're going to make it right now. We're going to dig into the pasta for a second. Do it a little bit. Come on. Come on, Mickey, we're gonna do that. That's what we're gonna do. These are your messages. This is the flower. This is the egg. We're doing it. Okay. Haley, where's the E and the S and the P in there for a minute?
Sure. So the evidence would be that every 2 minutes.
Every 2 minutes is so good. This campaign is so unique that we have this campaign, and this has been hard thought with messaging and research and data and collaboration with people around the world working in places to do this. And it's every 2 minutes messaging is something that's important and rare in a campaign to have. Keep going.
Sure.
Where's the
So
S in there?
yeah, the solution would be the awareness funds and voices for the bed nets.
Okay, but there's you missed a word that is the S in that same sentence. Did you hear it? Yeah, you got it. Yeah, go with your gut.
Life-saving?
Solutions that we can say are life-saving are rare in our world today. They matter because everyone wants to have a healthy life. So that word life-saving is not in there in your messaging by chance. Don't skip it. Don't make it so that it's rehearsed. It's got to be natural for you. But the fact that these messages have been worked on for years, we know that life-saving can be the difference between something being heard and not, something being printed or not. A life-saving solution is a solution that everyone wants to hear about. So I don't take that life-saving part of the S lightly, and the way you read it, your gut was right. So I love that you hesitated for a minute, because it proved the point. You know that that's where the solution comes in, and everyone wants to know that. Sorry, where's the P in here, Haley?
Sure. So the people would be, is it the students and superstars and CEOs?
And survey says? Yes, that's one of them. So we're going to stay there for a minute. Good. It is that for sure, the superstar students and CEOs, because that people story is interesting, right? That's what makes it relevant, and that's why the editor in Highland, Michigan, right? Did I get that? Illinois, is going to want to publish the story. There's another P in here. There's another people message. Where is it? Okay, why? Why? Okay, everyone will start listening, and there's a reason for it. Families and children, anyone who has the chance to live or not, whether they have access to a net or not, is a story that we should be talking about. And it goes to something important in this campaign that's a value of our media relations. What we're never doing is chasing an ambulance, as they say. We're never using something that is sacred, which is life, and we don't talk about it in a cheap way. So one of the ways to give authenticity and respect to the people that we're collaborating with, even if we don't know them, is to learn about their stories. Some of you are putting yourselves in their feet, in their shoes. Some of you have traveled to do that. Some of you can't travel to do it. Many of you now, because of technology, have the chance to be inside of a camp at a moment when people get access to these life-saving solutions. But if we can tell a story, it allows us to be authentic and respectful, and we owe that to people. They're counting on us to do it that way. There are people who will do things with statistics and stories like this in a cheaper way, but the Nothing But Nets campaign does not. And at the United Nations Foundation, we have made a commitment to our leadership and to anyone who's supported us through $1 or a week or their life to make sure that we are people who encourage other people to hear other stories and how important that is. I don't know what's going on in Grand Rapids, but I know that after this, I want to hear what Haley's going to do, because she's able to get the evidence and the solutions and the people and understand them in our key messages. Can we give Haley some love? Thank you, well done. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. All right, so we got our hands all messy for a minute in our dough. These are the messages. But if recited, you can't do it, right? Every 2 minutes, a child dies from malaria, a disease caused by, no one wants that. It falls flat. The editor doesn't care. He doesn't care. The reporter doesn't care. In fact, no one on your feed cares. Anyone seeing the story won't care if there's not authenticity to it. So the reason we want you to get comfortable with the messages, and the reason that we put them in front of you so many times, is so that you can make them your own. I loved hearing about why it mattered. That was a personal story I heard this morning. I mean, it was personal for you, right? So what's missing from these messages is the moment where you're making it your own. I heard the story because there's a connection to you. And so as much as there's great messaging in front of you and your folders are chock full of things to say and you know the things to say, the most important thing you can do as a spokesperson in any media environment, anything, whether you're on with Charlie Rose in the morning or whether you're talking to someone from Vox via Skype, is to let them know, let me tell you why this matters to me. Okay, can you all answer that question? I'm going to shut up for a couple of seconds and let you answer that question for a minute. Why does this really matter to me? Why does it speak to you? I'm going to be quiet for a second. Okay, can you answer it? It's going to be on different levels. For some of you, there are things that might seem super important to anybody and be immediately recognizable. To others, it might seem something like, a friend I really care about introduced me to this campaign. To other people, I've heard it be, do you know why I care about Nothing But Nets? It's helped me to have a sense of purpose in my community. Other people have said, I was traveling in Africa and didn't know anything about malaria. Other people have had friends who've died of it. So it goes the whole gamut, guys. Okay, it goes from here to there about why it matters to me, why I care. But the why I care message is one that you've got to use and is one that in every instance makes it relevant. The Nothing But Nets campaign, the reason that you're here, the reason that your rear end is sitting here right now and not on a couch watching a game somewhere else, that story is always going to be the most relevant part of that people piece. Anyone, from students to superstars to CEOs, or to people like me, can join the fight against malaria. That works for everybody. I'll tell you a little bit about my connection before I leave you this morning. But either way, it's important that you never underestimate that people part of it, which is you, the spokesperson, why you're even here at all. Let's advance to the next slide if we can. So you know about your messages, and we love at the United Nations Foundation that the fight against malaria finds itself in all of what we're doing, which is this exciting march toward 2030. Let's go ahead to the next slide, please. Because the United Nations is doing something in its history that is remarkable. Now, people love, or some people don't love, what goes on inside the halls of the United Nations. It's messy business trying to get everyone in the world to come around a dining room table. Okay? If you're part of a family, which each of you is, you'll know that it's not easy. But we have, go ahead, we have these things right now. The world decided on a to-do list in 2015 after a lot of work. A lot of work. They decided on a to-do list where we decided, our leaders heard from you, and you helped them decide and bring to the table that there were going to be some new global goals to work on together. And there were going to be things like fighting poverty and hunger, health, education, gender equality, all of those things that are in there. And the Nothing But Net story contributes to so many of them, all across the board. Someone give me an example of how defeating malaria will help. And someone give me an outside-the-box one. Someone can give me an inside-the-box one, but I want outside-the-box too. Yes, go ahead. Stand up. Absolutely. Because if a child cannot survive, and if a family cannot survive, and they have the chance to, even though there are life-saving solutions that are available to them, if they don't have access to them, all those other goals disintegrate, right? So strengthening the one allows you to get to there. Bravo, well done. Yes?
I will connect the Nothing But Net to goal number 8, decent work and economic growth.
How? Wait a minute, we're talking about malaria. Why?
Yeah, when we have malaria as an issue
Uh-huh.
in a certain country, definitely we will have school dropout for children who will be affected by malaria. We will have mothers who need to stay next to those children while they are in hospital or home. It's making a huge liability, a huge financial
Good, okay.
liability on those government instead of investing these resources and building more economic projects. They need to spend those resources on treating malaria or
Bravissimo.
malaria. So it's about like any disease.
Uh-huh.
If a disease is a burden in this country, it will definitely affect the economic growth.
Have you ever seen that somewhere?
Yeah, actually, I saw this in some countries, like in Egypt, they have
Okay, so I'm stopping you right there because I'm using it as an example. As soon as I started hearing the story, and as soon as we went to Egypt and made the connection, I could see, because I only can't see all of you, but I could perceive almost all of your eyebrows go, oh, there's a story coming up. Did you hear the story he was about to tell? And the link, he made the linkage to you because if the country's dragged down by a disease, you can't be working on your economy. If you're taking care of someone who's sick and they didn't have to be because there was a life-saving solution available to them, it drags down everything else. And I have a great spokesperson here because he was about to tell me a story where he saw it, and then he was going to make the example of Nothing But Nets and where the Nothing But Nets campaign has seen this happen in countries around the world. Thank you. Thank you. I want to hear more of this in a bit, but I'm going to cruise on, all right? Thank you. But did you see how that works? So I bring these up only because the world's got a great to-do list, and even though you've got your talking points, you need to know that the defeat of malaria is related to some of the biggest stuff in the world. Let's go to the next slide, please, if we can. So what happened in the United Nations, and we want you to know that even though you're part of a campaign that is focused on something that is so important and unknown to many people, the majority of people you talk to about this and the majority of people reading your newspaper out of Highland or clicking on that link to your blog post, or once you're in Georgetown, even though everyone at Georgetown should know about malaria, but they don't. The majority of people won't know what you're talking about, but you need to know that it links up to something very big that impacts the whole world, because by 2030, we have big goals to get rid of this stuff. That's part of something very big. Let's go to the next slide. The United Nations has come together to bring these goals into every single conversation possible, and you're going to be riding a wave of entertainers, of information influencers, of people around the world who are talking about what it takes to defeat a disease. And they want an example of one where you can feel something happening. Now, it will come as no surprise to you, since we don't know a lot about each other, but I'm standing in front of you. Oh, I think I just quoted Love Actually. Or no, wait, what did I quote? I'm just a guy standing in front of a ballroom asking him to love. What is that? Notting Hill. I just quoted Notting Hill on a Sunday. Oh, things are really, this date could get no weirder, right? Okay. Now that I've quoted Notting Hill. But there's some beauty to that now that I think about it. Anyway, have any of you ever run a marathon or a 5K or a 10K or whatever they are? Okay, you've done it. And you felt that feeling when the ribbon's across your chest? Have any of you felt that? I have not. Sometimes I put a ribbon up in my house just for kicks, right? And I just run through it and we go, yes, that happened. Solutions are incremental. This fight is a big one. And there are few examples in this work toward 2030 where we are seeing progress happen because of a solution that's available to us right now. Okay? When it comes to disease and when it comes to health, progress and success is measured oftentimes in decades after the fact. But in the fight against malaria, we have the chance to fight for many people's fights with us as we go through, because we can feel some of those victories. The stat that Rachel gave you earlier, about every 2 minutes, and that vital urgency, is matched by the importance of how many lives are being saved right now because of bed nets. So you have the chance to help people feel that feeling, and they want to be a part of that. Let's advance to the next slide, please. In your talking points, in the imagery that's available, and this is the first time we've seen an image, and this is one of the current ones that the campaign uses right now. I want to go back to some of those evidence, solutions, and people points. Do you see evidence, solutions, and people in this story? This is a young person where, do we know? Okay, so we got super specific. You got me right there, right? We have someone who's clearly the young person in the family. We know a lot about Amisa, and if you don't, you're going to know a lot about her, and this is Amisa's little sister. How are we treating Amisa's little sister in this photograph? She's the center of attention. We're focused on a human being. Thank you. We're focused on a human being. What else are we saying? I'm sorry? Okay, we're protecting her. There's someone in here. Are we showing Amisa at her most vulnerable? Good. I love this picture because it says a couple of things. We're not saying that there's not danger involved. I know that Amisa needs a net, but I also know that it's aspirational, because Amisa's sister, like her big sister, like her family, like anyone else, right? That we know that there is hope involved. And I love the fact that the imagery that the Nothing But Nets campaign says a lot about the messaging, and it sets the tone. You've done this through JCI, you've done this through your multiple partnerships. I heard about it with Avery, with her work that she's done. We know that you've kept this tone, but it's important that in your messaging, you keep this tone together. There's urgency, there's reality, but at the end of the day, there's a person at the center of a solution that works in a circumstance that is difficult, but something that is hopeful. Did you see all those things happen in this photo? It's amazing what can happen in a photo. And as you tell the story, and as you talk about the tone of it, that tone is what has made this campaign successful, and it's why we're grateful that you're helping to break through the noise when you talk about these things. Let's go to the next slide here. What do we learn here? You learned something new. What is it? There's a data point in this story, and I want you to bring out one of your messages. What is it? I'm sorry? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Our leader was going to jump in. What's the point that you see from this one? Right? And they're together and they're a family unit, just like everybody. There's a connection between all of us. Do you remember why this campaign mattered to you? The people. I have a family. I want to keep my family safe. And if there's a solution that I have access to, I want that solution. That's something that binds a lot of us together, right? What else comes out of here? A lot of people stories, right? Yes? Interesting. Good, comfort. The fact that these are areas, in many cases, these are areas of conflict and uncertainty. In many of the places where we work, not everywhere, but in many of the places there's a reality happening there. And there's a lot of comfort that happens when there's solutions happening in your life, right? Yeah, there was a hand over here. Okay. Access to? Good, and all of those things we talked about, right? So saving lives means you're saving lives that can be full of a bunch of stuff. And that means education and progress and all of those things that are, what else? What do you see?
I see girls or young women
Why is that important?
because globally speaking, girls and young women around the world are some of the most vulnerable populations, especially in areas that are dealing with all kinds of conflicts and issues like malaria.
And at the flip side, they're the most vulnerable, oftentimes the most ignored, even by data. But what happens when we make sure that girls and women, in that order, what happens when we make sure that girls and women are protected and have access to things like life-saving bed nets? What happens to the community and the economy and the polity? Up! These are solutions that work. Multiple solution stories that came in here. Let's go to the next slide. We are part of, right now, a growing revolution of people who are aligning themselves with a cause. And I have my phone in my hand right now because you know that. You know that from some of your friends who, they'll post about anything, but they don't really have the stories behind them. You do. We're part of a growing community of people whom we love. We love the Global Citizen Campaign, for example. People are getting involved and saying, what, do you want to know about a story you don't know about? Let's go to the next slide, please. We're part of a new group of people that realize that the smartest brands in the world, we heard about one of them today. I love Cotopaxi. I love that brand so much. Brands in the world, people in the world, networks in the world, and progress all want to be part of one another. They want to be part of something winning. And winning doesn't mean I got more than you. Winning doesn't mean I screwed you over, you lost. Winning does not mean what you see when you watch Billions, if any of you watch that. Winning means that we're all progressing towards something together. A new generation of people, anyone under the age of 18, and there's a lot of them in the room right now, have stated that they will move from a job, they will donate to a cause, or they will vote someone out or in of office, whether or not they feel like they're on the winning side of cause. We have a generation in front of us right now that is more aligned to that than ever before. Generations that came before did hard work on a number of things. I'm not disclaiming any of that. But we know something now about millennials and younger, and we know that these things matter to them more than ever before. Next slide, please. So what used to be, and it's important, and I'm so happy to hear that quote this morning about light, because what happens when we do the light, and what happens with the phone is amazing right now, because we're giving people content. And so I wasn't going to quote Buddha this morning. It already happened for us, but it gives us the ability to go ahead and give people other information where they can move forward. Next slide, please. I'm going to close right now with a story, and I told you why this campaign mattered to me. And I want to close it with someone who matters a lot to me. I want to tell you about Julia. This is my Julia. She's my daughter. I thought finally I had broken through and I was the cool dad because I got a ticket to a concert on the mall. You can see the Washington Monument right there. You see it? So let me tell you the story about Julia and the day where I learned why a campaign like Nothing But Nets matters. So I get a ticket to a concert. It says you can bring one person. I think, finally, I'm going to take my kid to a concert. Not a conference, but a concert. And Julia is going to think that this is fun. And so I take Julia with me. And in the middle of the concert, each of the artists would stop and talk about girls and women. And they would talk about how things like disease and poverty are sexist, and they really do impact girls and women. And then they would talk about disease and how diseases like malaria that can be defeated haven't been yet because enough people aren't talking about it. And that if more people talked, more legislation would move and more money would be mobilized and more corporations would be involved and it could be defeated. And Julia, in the middle of this concert, takes out a pencil. I didn't know she owned one. She takes a pencil out of her purse. She's so cool. And she starts writing down facts and figures. So she's got a nerd dad. So that didn't surprise me. She has a dad who works on global issues, so that didn't shock me. But what shocked me was that a girl who was at a concert with the cool dad, finally, gets really mad. And it was one of the lowest days in our relationship at the beginning that's ended up being a high point in our relationship because she was mad. And she said the following phrase to me. She said, "Dad, you guys are like 90. That hurts. She knows how old I am. "You've known about this." And she asks the following question, next slide. "What are you doing about it? And how will we know it's working?" That's the story that every one of your editors in every one of your papers, or any one of your friends who will read any one of your blogs, or any person of influence who's going to ask you any question about what happened when you're in Washington, D.C., will want to know and will make your story a success. What are we doing about it? You're that story. We're mobilizing, we're campaigning, we're supporting the techniques and the technologies that do these things. And how will we know it's working? Because we've got the facts. And incrementally, we're putting these facts in front of people, and we got reactions from people. That's Julia's story. So I'm going to ask the following from you, from people who matter, people of relevance. Your story will never be hotter than right now. I'm in Washington, D.C. with the Nothing But Nets campaign. I've got something to tell you. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I just had an experience in our congressperson's office where I allowed them to be part of an experience through virtual reality. Oh my gosh, I am so excited about what's going to happen when virtual reality becomes a part of your conversations. I was able to help tell people a story about a disease they really didn't know about, and where every 2 minutes something's happening that you need to know about, and that we can change. You all know how to use your email, you all know how to text, you all WhatsApp, you all do something. Telling that story from here in DC this week makes you the most relevant spokespeople. And we'll work with you together. This campaign team, this brilliant team of people that we love, will work with you to make sure that those stories resonate. And at the end of the day, you can answer the story, why it matters to me. You're doing all of us a favor for the millions of Julias around the world. I'm going to thank you for being a part of a campaign that shows that people who care and people who get it will get stuff done, and we're all going to defeat malaria. Thank you.